Okay, hey everybody, it's Get the Nutritionist here, and today's video is going to be on caffeine, specifically people that overdo caffeine, people that thrive on caffeine, people that live on caffeine. Because one thing I've noticed in practice is there's generally a stereotype of people I see coming in that are low energy, people that are having health problems, and basically, it's actually people that have a very bad relationship with their diet due to the overuse of stimulants like caffeine. Whether it's coffee or energy drinks or a bunch of tea in between, I'm seeing people are affecting their energy and their sleep. So I'm going to explain what adenosine is, how that impacts your body, why you need it, and why you shouldn't really be blocking it, and how over time you can get back natural energy, but it takes a little more gumption on your part if you're a person that has an addiction with caffeine or an overdoing of caffeine. Now, if you're a person that does like a cup of coffee in the morning and that's it for the rest of the day, that's cool. You ain't got a problem. I'm talking about the people that, have it for breakfast and lunch and dinner, cup of coffee, and then an energy drink, and then some tea, sugar in between, and yeah, basically people that are neglecting their health and their diet. Okay, so let's begin. So again, people will drink caffeine, right? Because they think it'll magically give them a boost of energy. In reality, when you drink caffeine, what happens is you will get tired later on. You're just temporarily kicking the can down the road for later, which is when people get that crash and they feel terrible, right? So it's kind of ironic, right? People get that crash, they feel terrible, so they think, oh, I must need more caffeine, right? So somehow that's going to be the answer, but that's what creates the vicious cycle in which people are stuck being caffeine addicts. So if you drink caffeine and you stay up later and you're not able to fall asleep easily, if you're not waking up feeling rested, if you're kind of putting yourself in a position where you're going for more caffeine instead of eating a meal, right? Like you're foregoing meals and you're believing that an energy drink could replace a meal, that's going to be problematic for a lot of people that I see. If you get hyper and then you crash, it's a big one. That means you need to make a change to your health, right? Because you can't sustain this over time. And I know working a job is tiresome, whether it's an office job, whether you're working physically. People believe that caffeine will give them the boost they need. But eventually, over time, you feel more tired, you feel more tired, and you feel even more tired. So you do more coffee, you do more energy drinks, you do more caffeine, and you just don't feel any better. The reality is, you're blocking your receptors, which is messing with your sleep and energy. You're usually, for the most part, right, people are missing meals. You gotta eat food to get energy. Caffeine doesn't make energy in your body. This is the reality. You know, I don't care if it's even like a big sugary drink. That amount of sugar, you're gonna crash even harder for the most part. Third, if you stop eating foods and you're overdoing caffeine, caffeine can become a diuretic. So I think the sweet spot's like 300 milligrams, right? But once you go over that, I mean, some people do 400, 600, 800, even a gram, maybe more, right? Just, it depends on people, right? Some people do coffee all day, and it's kind of crazy. Because it helps them stay awake, right? But at the same time, you know, what's the saying? You're robbing from Peter to pay Paul, and then you will really feel the debt that your sleep is going to require of you. Okay. So caffeine works by primarily blocking something called your adenosine receptors. You have A1 and A2 receptors. This will be here. So what happens is throughout the day, right, just by living, just by existing, you're working, you're on vacation, whatever it is, right, whatever you're doing, adenosine will increase throughout the day in your brain, and by the time it's dark and, it's time, you should be ready for bed and you should feel kind of sleepy. The thing about coffee, right, well, caffeine, right, is it blocks these receptors. So if you can see here, right, or you can see my mouse. So the little, you have these receptors on the right side of that blue thing, the dendrite, right? These are your neurons. So what happens is caffeine will block these receptors, so adenosine can't go to the receptors. So imagine you got these receptors, right? You drink caffeine, caffeine then kind of blocks it. Once caffeine, depending on the half-life, it could be 4 to 7 hours. Some people, it could be 12, depends on genetics, liver health, how you metabolize it. Eventually, over time, once it leaves, right, then all the adenosine is still accruing, right? It's building up. Then it attaches, and then you crash. And this can happen at terrible times, right? This can happen during work. This can happen, if you're driving a long distance, that kind of thing, right? So the goal is to never have enough caffeine so you don't have that crash. The way it should work, right, reasonably, is you wake up, you drink a cup of coffee, that's it, right? Maybe something else at lunch, like a tea or whatever, that's fine, I don't see a big deal with that. But any later than that, right, you're continuously blocking your adenosine. So you should naturally feel sleepy, you should go to bed, you sleep it off, you wake up in the morning, and you should be renewed for the next day, right? The thing about caffeine, right, is when you start drinking caffeine later than noon, let's say 4 p.m., 6 p.m., 8 p.m., what tends to happen is you have this dysfunction of adenosine accruing in irregular times. So at some point you fall asleep, right? It's dark, your melatonin builds up, that's also another factor. You fall asleep, and you still got some adenosine there, right? Like you didn't completely get rid of it. So at some point at the next day, right? Let's say you've been doing this for 3 weeks already. It'll be noon and you're falling asleep pretty hard. And sure, you're drinking coffee and it's just not enough. Because there's only so much you do with your adenosine, right? So our goal is to bring you back from all the caffeine and to have just a cup of coffee in the morning. Or none. Some people do none and they're totally fine and they feel amazing, right? But some people, coffee is a sacred cow. For some people, it helps them go to the restroom. It's, I don't think it's terrible to have a cup of coffee in the morning, right? It's my opinion, and especially if it helps you go to the bathroom because some people have constipation, and it's a good tool for that. Do what's it called? It's got a specific compound that makes you go to the restroom, right? I can't think of it at the moment. But point being, right, we need to fix the relationship with coffee or caffeine, energy drinks, that kind of thing. So a common misconception is caffeine will create energy. The thing is, caffeine can't create energy because it's a stimulant, right? Sure, it'll mask fatigue signals by blocking with the adenosine. You feel more alert, your ears perk up, you're kind of active, you feel your nervous system kind of working pretty well. And the thing is, you still have the same amount of ATP. I mean, maybe you're running on catecholamines like adrenaline, noradrenaline, a little bit of dopamine. So some people feel really perked up and in a good mood when they drink coffee. Which, if you drink a cup of coffee and you feel that way, then you're fine, right? But once you start abusing it, right, then you're abusing your dopamine, you're abusing your cortisol with your adrenaline and noradrenaline, right? And that's why some people feel a little more stressed out than usual, but we'll go a little more into that a bit later because it involves it being a diuretic and losing some nutrients along the way. So caffeine can temporarily hide the problem while allowing your energy reserves to be consumed. Eventually, you get a deficit that's harder to compensate with. This is why when people overconsume caffeine just to feel somewhat normal energized, the reality is people need to eat quality food at the same time to energize their body, right? I don't care if you're drinking a sugary cup of coffee from Starbucks and it's got like 150 grams of sugar. That much sugar is going to crash you. You need to eat some fats, you need to eat some proteins, you need to have an actual good quality meal. And this is why people can feel worse when they, end up drinking some sugary coffee. So what I tell people, right, these are professionals, this is what I see. This is the classic archetype. Is you're a busy professional, you're working at your job, wherever it is. You're rushing to work, and I get it, right? Traffic sucks everywhere, you know. You don't want to wake up too early, right? Unless you have to. So regardless, you want your cup of coffee in the morning to get you through the morning. And that's cool, but then people pair it with a donut or a bagel, and it's just more sugar, it's more carbs, and then they're going to crash eventually. And the average person isn't repleting their B vitamins or eating a really good quality meal, so they're going to feel even more slumpish than that. Well, then comes lunch, right? Of course, people want to, take care of their body, watch their figure, usually women in this regard. So they'll eat a salad or some chicken and a pretty low calorie meal, right? The thing is, you kind of already neglected breakfast. So your lunch should have been a bit more bigger, a little more energy required to carry you throughout the end of the day, right? So it'll be another a Bang energy drink or a coffee or whatever have you, right? Then eventually they got to work, then they have a big meal, and the meal tends to be, I mean, that's a bigger meal, right? But they tend to eat garbage and junk food and crabbers, fast food, and sure, I mean, you get a little more energy, but you're also eating things that are inflammatory and they're not really serving you. And, not everyone cooks, and I understand that, and I work with people on how to help them get to cook and meal prepping and that kind of thing, right? I know people want to just get a quick meal because they've been all day at work. In reality, it's not just 9 to 5. You got to wake up early, and then you got to, what, takes another hour to get home, depending on where you live and that kind of stuff. And some jobs, they're more than 9 to 5. You got to like stay after work and do things, right? So I understand how people will want a quick meal, but that can be detrimental in the long term, which is why I'm here. And you could go to my Patreon and just read all my stuff. So already, you're nutritionally devoid. You're not getting your B vitamins. You're not getting your fatty acids. You're not getting your amino acids, your proteins. So the question is, if this is you, all I'm going to say, right, to keep it simple, right, is have a decently good breakfast, a simple bacon and eggs, right, for a lot of people will make them happy, uh, you know, just something, right, to give your body energy to compete, right. Unless you already have a really good lunch and a really good dinner, and you want to do some fasting, that'd be cool. But for the majority of people I see, right, they're kind of fasting and they're already in a calorie deficit in which they want to lose weight, but at the same time, you're not giving your body the energy it needs to have a good metabolism, and everything just falls down like a bunch of dominoes. So we want to start a healthy relationship with your diet so you could have naturally recurring energy all day, even after work. Eat well for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, while slowly weaning off of extra caffeine. Uh, Click here for my food list. Um, I have a general list of low toxin foods I encourage all my clients to consume, and they love it. And it's been pretty helpful having a good list for them. Then here's my guide on where you should begin on your health journey. If you want to begin somewhere, I would recommend reading that guide so you know how to start, where to start, and what to do, right? Because you gotta start somewhere, and people skip steps and they feel like crap, and it's because they skip certain things important to health that you should have done in the beginning. I know a lot of people that start with like step 5, 6, 7, you know, but there's a lot more steps before you take supplements and you start detoxing. There's little baby steps along the way you got to do first, so you can get into a much better way of doing things. So caffeine can vary, right? It depends on, you know, well, it's just coffee, right? But it depends if it's decaf or not. Decaf is pretty low. Green tea is fairly low. I think herbal tea have almost none. But I mean, the rest of these are all coffees, right? So you have a nitro, which is a lot more, like 215 milligrams of caffeine. Cappuccino macchiato, sure, they're like whatever. A regular drip cup of coffee, 165 more or less. Some are around 100 milligrams. It depends. I mean, all coffee is different. Depends on how much you steep it, how much you get out of it. So yeah, just to keep in mind, right? Like a cup of coffee in the morning, it's fine. I don't see a big deal with it. But once it's after lunch, it can become a big deal since you start messing with your adenosine a little too much, impacting your sleep. So caffeine stimulates the release of dopamine, norepinephrine, and epinephrine, which is adrenaline. This is why some people, when they drink coffee, they feel a little bit, you know, on edge, right? For some people, coffee is it's too much for them. They don't need coffee. They're already kind of sensitive as they are, and for them, caffeine just really gets them going. So for some people, right, while caffeine can be great at first, you could continue to have it be great as long as you're eating your meals well, you're eating healthy, you're taking certain supplements that you may need, you're getting your health under control, then your morning cup of coffee is going to be okay, right? It's not going to have any problems down the road, right? Again, right, you want to have a good, stable relationship with caffeine so you're not going to sabotage yourself. Repeated stimulation, right? So if you become the person that undereats food and you're just thriving on coffee, as I talk about with that archetype of the busy professional worker, Repeated stimulation of caffeine can lead to much less receptor sensitivity, temporary depletion of neurotransmitter stores, and lower response to normal amounts of dopamine and norepinephrine. So essentially, what it's saying here, right, is not only it depletes your catecholamine because it's activating more dopamine. That's why some people, when drink coffee, they feel good, right? They feel great. And eventually they lose that feeling. And that's when it becomes problematic because they're overdoing the caffeine, right? Over like 300 milligrams, right? I think the recommended is 300 milligrams a day for caffeine. But I would suggest don't do it throughout the day. I would say just in the morning, and if you have to, by lunch, sure, lunch. After that, right, you don't want to fuck with sleep. To me, sleep is sacred. That's when your body can rest. That's when it can heal. That's when it rejuvenates. That's when it helps you consolidate memories and knowledge you learned that day for your neurons, neuroplasticity. And when you fuck with sleep, you fuck with everything, right? So always want to make sure sleep is as good as possible. So the body attempts to maintain homeostasis by dampening stimulatory pathways. As established, people overdo caffeine tend to not be eating enough food, and if so, are eating standard American junk diet. If you don't eat well enough, you will lack diet. And I encourage people to eat plenty of animal-based protein because I say it's a complete protein which contains all the amino acids you need for producing neurotransmitters, which are vital for mental health, contains vitamins and minerals required to help you with energy production. And when you start feeling kind of like shit or you feel like you need more caffeine, like when one cup doesn't do it enough, right? Because you've been kind of doing a little more here and there, you feel the mental fatigue, reduced motivation, you got that brain fog, you got that wired but tired feeling, which, in my opinion, a lot of these arise from vitamin deficiencies, specifically the B vitamins. Because again, right, once you start drinking enough coffee, right? Well, I mean, enough caffeine of any stimulants, right? Depending on what else they add on it, right? If you're like doing energy drinks, they could be adding some more ingredients that could be more of a diuretic. So you're losing electrolytes and you have less energy. So this graph is kind of weird because they're all true. I told you about the adenosine and the caffeine, how it blocks the caffeine blocks the adenosine receptor, so adenosine can bind, so you feel alert and energized, but once it goes away, the half-life between 4 to 12 hours, more or less, depending on the person, then boom, they hit that fatigue. So another one is caffeine can stimulate lipolysis, in which it breaks down fat directly and increases in adrenaline. This could spare muscle glycogen. So some people, right, they like coffee because it helps them lose weight. And it does stimulate, your body to burn a little more fat, burn a little more sugar due to that. And caffeine stimulates calcium release, which is important for muscle contractions. So this is why when some people take certain pre-workouts that are loaded with caffeine, they feel like they work out much better. And that's because due to the calcium release, which you need for your muscle contractions. So these are all true. I don't know why it gives you a false economy, because they all work. Sleep cycle disruption. This is where we got to be honest with ourselves, right? If your sleep is suffering, we need to work on you so you have good quality, amazing sleep. I mean, some exceptions could be if you're like a new mother or a new father and your sleep's gonna suck. Then I understand why people could be terrible, right? But you can do it in such a way where you're getting as much rest as possible, right? Even though you're waking up. So people who overdo caffeine tend to have sleep problems. I say this because they do not give the body enough time to build up their adenosine to cause natural sleepiness. With caffeine here and there and in between throughout the day, their sleepiness bucket does not fill up, and they didn't sleep later than usual, right? So they're kind of already messing with their sleep cycle, and they still have to wake up early for work, right? So you're going to be losing sleep regardless. And not only are you losing sleep, but you're losing quality of sleep as well. And even if you're a person that could drink caffeine to fall asleep, because there are some people like that, right? They can drink a whole can of Monster or Bang or a cup of coffee and they sleep. But their quality of sleep just isn't the same, right? It's not as full as it could be. It could always be better. So you want to have deep sleep, right? But if you have less deep sleep, then you're not really dreaming as much. You're not waking up energized, rejuvenated. Things you learned aren't being consolidated for new memories, right? Sleep quality, falling asleep and staying asleep easily. Some people find it harder to fall asleep and easier to stay asleep. Sleep efficiency is where you need less sleep and you can spring out of bed easily. That should be the ultimate goal, right? You slept so well, right? You just jump out of bed when you wake up, right? Some people, they just kind of dilly-dally in bed and they're still kind of tired and kind of groggy and they're just, they're savoring what little bedtime they have before they get up and go on with their life. So studies show that caffeine can remain active for many hours. The half-life is typically 3 to 7 hours, and some people can metabolize it much slower, and it could be like 12 hours, right? This is why I often tell my clients they should not drink caffeine or coffee after lunch. It's a very small tip I give people, right? But it has a big difference when they go to sleep, when they go to bed, because they fall asleep easier and they have less of a problem. Because I know some people are wired but tired, and you're tired, you really want to sleep, but you just can't, right? Because the adenosine, it's messed with your sleepiness. This has this has led people to less sleep, right? That's restorative, right? Because sleep should be the thing that when you wake up, you got no more fatigue, you're ready for the day, bright-eyed, bushy tail. But as we spoke about the rebound effect earlier, people will mistakenly increase their caffeine consumption as if somehow it'll make all things better, and it does not. So I have an article about sleep that's really good. Talks about blue light, talks about winding down, talks about if you have anxiety and worrisome thoughts, what you should do the next day. It talks about, if you're lacking certain things like magnesium and thiamine, and you should read it. It's an awesome article and people love it. It's one of my most popular articles because sleep is really important. And this kind of goes hand in hand with that because I think most people are sabotaged by overeating caffeine and not eating well enough to give their body the nutrients it needs to run the body. Okay, so I'll just explain this real quick. So yeah, stage one, sleep. It's your lightest sleep, and you can easily be awakened, right? Once you get in stage two, your body temperature drops a lot more. And interestingly enough, the colder your body, the better you sleep. Your heart rate slows, you're prepared for deeper sleep. Stage three is deeper sleep. This is where you have the repair function occurring. This is where immune function kicks in. This is why rest is important, especially if you're sick. Then you have stage 4 REM sleep, you have vivid dreams, brain activity. This is important for memory. To some extent, people argue it's really important for mental health because there's probably things happening in the brain we have yet to really study or understand that's improving people's mental health. That needs to happen in REM sleep, right? So, stage 1 and stage 2 is primarily for energy. Stage 3, as we talked about, is for, healing. And then stage 4 is for memory consolidation. So it's kind of interesting how humans adapted, right? Because if you had to wake up early, right, at least you got your first two stages of sleep down, which is required for your energy. But you want a little more than that, right? The last two REM sleeps, right? I mean, the last two sleep cycles are responsible for basically your overall well-being. So magnesium and electrolyte depletion, you may feel less calmer, you may feel less energy. That's because caffeine, if you overdo it, of course, right, can increase urinary losses of important electrolytes. Caffeine is a mild diuretic, so when you go over 300 milligrams, you could be losing some amount of your electrolytes, especially if you're peeing a lot more often. This means coffee, black and green teas, and soda can deplete your electrolytes if you overdo it. This becomes an ironic catch-22 because drinking more caffeine will make you have less energy and to lose more electrolytes. Sweet spot 300 milligrams or less. Cup of coffee at most it's 180, right? Give or take, depending on how much it was steeped or whatever. But yeah, you should be fine. But for the people that overdo it, right, you will see a loss of electrolytes. 1 cup of coffee early in the morning is cool. And for placebo effect purposes, I will not elaborate more on this. But what I will say, right, is the Turkish people, when they do drink a cup of coffee, they always drink it with a cup of water. And that's because people feel better when they drink coffee with a cup of water. It makes them feel more hydrated. I don't really understand how that works specifically, but people feel better when they have a cup of coffee and some water. Magnesium, you can lose magnesium, sodium, so you need more salt. Potassium, you get it from meats, veggies, and fruits. Calcium, you usually get it from dairy. Magnesium is required for ATP stabilization for better mitochondrial function to create more energy. It also helps you regulate the nervous system to be calmer. And if you're very tense or very sore, you work out a lot, whatever, it helps your muscles relax. So whereas calcium kind of makes you act up and get tense, magnesium helps you chill. And since most ATP exists as magnesium ATP, inadequate magnesium can contribute to fatigue, muscle weakness, and poor stress tolerance. The effect is usually modest in individuals, but may become significantly in people who are already low magnesium. So people who are generally going to be low magnesium are going to be the kind of people that, standard American diet, a lot of caffeine, a lot of sugar, sodas, carbs. And the thing is, it also applies to people that regularly drink alcohol because it's very taxing on the body and on the detox systems. Another big detriment I see in some clients is they will drink alcohol, in dinner. It's a suppressant, and they do so because it helps them wind down before bed. And essentially, you're replacing one drug with another drug, right? You're using coffee as a caffeine to stimulate yourself, and then you're kind of winding down with alcohol as a suppressant, so you can go to bed easy, right, or feel calmer. They both will fight with your sleep, right? This is just a reality. And yeah, you feel relaxed, you feel calmer, but your sleep quality goes down, the rest you get from sleep isn't as good, and when you pair them together, you're just gonna feel like shit when you wake up, right? This is because alcohol takes a lot for your body to detox, as I said. It'll use up your minerals, like zinc, like your selenium, like your molybdenum, your B vitamins too. It'll use up your electrolytes, and they all need you need these nutrients to help you with energy, right? The way I see it, right, is if you drink alcohol, you're just giving it away, right? So what I find interesting is biohackers know this pretty well. The ones that wear the aura rings and they do crazy Brian Johnson kind of shit. They know pretty well that alcohol doesn't improve sleep at all, and it worsens it a lot. People really love energy drinks, but if you find energy drinks are just not working out, you got to reassess your relationship with caffeine. Because energy drinks, for the most part, will have a lot more caffeine than coffee, right? So, Bang has a lot. Fiber Energy has a lot. Beyond Raw Lit has a lot. Ghost 200. Monster is a bit lower, 160. Rain has 300. The Rocks thing has 160. Rockstar has 160. Interesting enough, Red Bull has like 80 milligrams. But I think it's just they use like other natural herbs. So, in my opinion, I think the sugar's a little too high, right? And I think they're working on like a sugar-free one or whatever. In my opinion, right? I don't think energy drinks are all that. But I think probably the best one, if I had to pick one, right? It's going to be Red Bull sugar-free. Bang is weird. I've had clients where when they drink Bang, they have like eye twitching. I don't know if it's EDTA. I don't know if it's got some calcium in it that's messing with them. I don't know if it's using up their uh, magnesium and their low or their electrolytes. I don't know. Bang's kind of weird. I know it's pretty common, and there's a lot of all these other ones. People like Celsius because it's low carb. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of energy drinks. You can drink them every now and then. I think they taste pretty good, right? But doesn't mean they're good. The most benign is going to be Red Bull sugar free. I know they have some monk fruit in there now. It's not a lot. It's like a sucralose, and I think sucralose is garbage, and it messes with your gut bacteria. But yeah, I don't see the point of energy drinks, right? If you drink it early enough in the morning or by lunch, you should be okay, right? But again, like I say, right, everyone's different. You might be the kind of person that's very sensitive to caffeine and you can't really do any, or you'll be up at night. Some people, they're really good at metabolizing it. They can drink a ton of caffeine and they're going to be okay, but they still will be impacted, right? So again, just generally with the rule I have, no caffeine after lunch and you'll generally be good. And don't overdo it. So again, right, I'm talking about people that overdo it and they're crazy and they're not really eating enough food to replenish their body. The stereotypical professional worker. You have a much more increased demand for B vitamins. Caffeine increases your metabolic rate and your turnover, as we discussed earlier. This can increase demand for nutrients involved in energy metabolism, including vitamin B1, thiamine. So if you notice you're not so relaxed, you're not chill, you're kind of on edge, you have a B1 deficiency. B2 riboflavin, if you kind of sunburn easy. You, I don't know, have problems with your glutathione. You could be missing, some B2. B3, niacin, if your energy isn't as natural as it should be, you could be lacking niacin. So here's the thing about B vitamins, and it's kind of annoying. All B vitamins, to some extent, they help you with your body making energy through the Krebs cycle. It helps you with the electron transport chain, especially when paired with zinc and magnesium. So if you're a diuretic and you're, again, stereotypical professional and you're skipping on meals and you're just eating donuts and crap, this is more for you because you're lacking B vitamins, which helps you create energy. It's important to have your B vitamins. B5, B6, B9, B12. To make a long story short, these vitamins are required for your body to make energy. Again, also neurotransmitter synthesis. Now, energy drinks are something people do not need. Let's say because people are creating an unhealthy relationship with food by substituting their meals with energy drinks. If you find yourself doing that, you gotta go, you're on the run, you got some time constraints, you just pick up a monster or whatever you like. Uh, sure, every now and then that's fine, right? Because I get it, right? But if you do it often, you have an unhealthy relationship with caffeine, energy drinks, and you got to reassess your situation and to just eat actual food again to give your body what it needs to run. So even the sugar-free options aren't amazing; they're not the best ingredients. I argue this is like putting a fuel stabilizer into your car, and sure, I mean, it'll help your energy last longer, but if you don't have oil, right, if you don't have gas, right, for the car to run, then it's kind of pointless. You're just kind of gonna burn your engine, right? That's what's happening to people, right? When they overdo caffeine, you're kind of burning your engine, and you're not gonna run, and it's gonna take a bit to fix it. Because people with low insulin intake may notice worsening fatigue, then their metabolic demand rises. So B vitamins, I've already written on it. I don't feel like doing a whole thing on it again, just because. I mean, unless you have like a very specific problem, I get articles on about what you may be missing specifically. But as a whole, for the sake of this article, you need your B vitamins for energy. The end, right? I recommend clicking this article here because people who undereat might be hypothyroid. The people that are abusing caffeine and they're just eating sweets, these are going to be more likely to people suffering from hypothyroidism because you got to give your thyroid energy to feed your body so the metabolism can work well. And there's also a lever connection to your thyroid, which is really important that people often neglect. So yeah, click here to read more about it. And this is essentially the end of the article. So in ending, more caffeine becomes a vicious cycle in which you feel you need more energy, but instead you're digging a deeper hole of having less energy with a much less restful sleep. Make sure to eat a nutrient-dense foods and enough of it because, again, you gotta eat food for energy. And if you don't know what to eat, click my food list. It's simple. It's a good rounded food list. It's very low toxic. People that eat this from the food list, they usually feel good, regardless of where they fall on diets. Again, you need to have good breakfast. If you're the person that only runs on coffee and you're not having a good lunch, so here's the thing, right? Everybody works different jobs, and not all jobs are the same. Some are more stressful. Some employers will not give a fuck about your rights, and they'll just give you like a 30-minute lunch. I mean, we have OSHA and shit that should be regulating these kind of things, but you value your job, so you won't really challenge your supervisor or your boss, right? So if you know you're gonna have a bad lunch, eat a really good breakfast. If you know you're not gonna have a good breakfast or you skip it, you need to have a really good lunch, right? So depending on you, who you are, where you work, figure that out, right? Because the worst thing you can do is just not eat. You can only fast so much. And if you're over fasting and you're under eating, that's not good. I recommend fasting only if you eat well enough. And, if you do, cool. But for the majority of people I see, they come to me as clients, they're not eating well enough, and they think by doing some fasting, they'll magically fix their health. But again, right, it doesn't really work that way. Fasting is a tool to be used once you're a bit healthier, right? People kind of treat fasting like an Ozempic. Oh, I'm eating less, but you're just eating less garbage, but you're still eating garbage, and sure, you won't get sick right now, but you'll get sick later, eventually, gradually, over time, affecting your body's health. But for the majority of my people, that are already healthy, they know this and they're smart about this and they have enough nuance to understand this. This is really just an introductory kind of article for the average worker to start caring about their health again, to start thinking, hey, my relationship with caffeine is very dysfunctional. It's unhealthy. It's making me more tired, and I need nice, good, clean energy to help me out at work. Because again, right, life is short, and you can't just run on stimulants all the time. Because there will come a day where you will burn out, and you will feel like shit, and you will feel old even though you're young or middle aged, right? I want people to kind of avoid that, right? Because there's a lot of people today that are burnt out, and that's due to the terrible economy and the culture of hustling, and people aren't getting any healthier because of that. So if we could, begin by having you eat a good breakfast with just a simple cup of coffee and no more caffeine in the evening, you'll be fine, you'll do well. And this is going to be a gradual thing, right? Because you're the person doing a ton of energy drinks, you're going to have to slowly wean off of the energy drinks. Because if you stop cold turkey, you're going to feel like complete shit for maybe 2 weeks, right? And unless you're going to take vacation days or something like that, you need to rip off that band-aid. Because you just can't keep continuing this way, abusing caffeine and undereating. At the very least, right? Eat more so you have more energy. You slowly wean off of your drinks, whether you eat like 5 energy drinks a day or 10 cups of coffee a day, right? You know, maybe every few days you do one less energy drink, you do one less cup of coffee, whatever your choice of caffeine is. And eventually, over time, by the end of the month, maybe by month two, you should be off of caffeine and you could keep a cup of coffee or energy drink in the evening. But for a lot of people, they tend to just quit completely because they know how smooth their energy is. And that's because at the same time, right? They're eating foods that are healthy, right? That's why I have my food list. They eat foods that are going to nourish them, to give them the vitamins they need, to give them the minerals they need, to give them the protein they so desperately need for their mental health, to give them the fatty acids they need for their body. And essentially, once you nourish your body, you don't really have much of a need for caffeine. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the end of my article. And I finished all my big articles, all my big guides. They're done. I don't really foresee myself doing any bigger guides. I'm going to focus on much more smaller videos like this. I mean, it's going to be for like 40 minutes, right? But I mean, videos that are like an hour, hour 30, hour 20, hour 10. So I'm hoping I can now just do smaller articles. It'll help me free up some of my time. It'll help you guys just have a simple topic to go over with, introduce you to my body of work on my Patreon. Please subscribe to my Gabe's Health Wisdom so you can begin to start taking care of your health. And as you read my Patreon guides and you learn through it, you can then become healthy in ways you never knew you could be. And you're not getting information from some influencer that never sees clients. A lot of my articles are written because I see clients, and based on my experience, I write about that. I'm not some influencer that looks at a shitty study, pretends there's some retarded authority on the study, and then they give you bad information which doesn't line up with reality or what I see in the real world. Because there's a lot of papers on caffeine and coffee. There's one saying that, oh, you drink like 20 cups of coffee a day and you'll be fine, no big deal. But it was only looking at like cardiovascular health, right? And the thing is, well, what about your sleep? What about your energy? What about rebounding, right? What about adenosine? Like, it missed all that, right? So I don't recommend getting information from an influencer that doesn't see clients. Because there's a lot of those people on TikTok and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, right? A bunch of self-proclaimed gurus that they just find shit on the internet and talk about it, you know? And I think that's pretty detrimental. You want to get information from people that see clients. Because when you see clients, you talk to people in the real world that have actual experience and have to do actual things to help them make things happen in the real world, real life, right? A lot of these people, they live in theory and ideas that haven't been used, or when they do use those ideas, they have no merit in reality. And that's my ultimate token of telling people, because there's a lot of misinformation on the internet. There's good and bad. On the allopathic side and the alternative side, there's bad information everywhere. And it's because ChatGPT has been a really big tool for scammers and grifters and for a bunch of idiots that don't know shit to pretend they know something, right? I see a lot of people like on Twitter threads, right? X, right? Whatever you want to call it. And you can just tell, it's all fucking AI. And sure, AI is cool and it's fine. I think it's a great tool, but a lot of people, they're divorcing their mind and they're just letting AI do all the work. AI is a good tool and people should be using it. But if you're doing it in such a way where you're retarding your own mind and you're not allowing critical thinking, then we have a problem. Because you can have a layout, you can have it help you with things, but if you're not making your work your own and putting your own stuff into it, and you're not giving your life experiences and you're not referencing other things, then we're just going to live in a copy and paste world. And at some point, there we know ChatGPT and all these other AIs are kind of hallucinating off of other regurgitated AI crap. So I think AI is going to devolve, and we're not going to see good information anymore. So yeah, just keep in mind there's people out there that have interesting videos, and first off, right, do they have experience in the real world helping clients? And if they don't, I'm sorry, but you know, probably pick a person that has experience. If you want to be my client, I'm pretty affordable. I charge $149. I've reached out to a bunch of people that do like how to be rich work, and they all think I should do my shit for like 3,000 at least. Some think I should do my stuff for about 1,000. I don't want to. I think it's unethical. I think prices that are being charged are terrible, right? But even then, right, you got people doing terrible, devilish marketing, and there's people like you that are helpless and need, guidance. They need support, and they're being taken around for like $10,000 to do some bullshit program that doesn't even work. They're forced to buy a bunch of supplements that they don't really need, and they're not getting healthier. But this is enough of ranting. So yeah, please like, share, subscribe to this video. If you have questions, leave them below. I'll answer them. Because again, I like getting to know my clients, I like working with them. I like to build this relationship, right? You're not just another fucking person, I'm taking money from. You're someone I'm investing in. And that's the thing, right? I only take people who are clients that care about their health. You don't care about your health, then you're doing it for fun, like it's some kind of tarot card reading or some kind of palm reading, then yeah, I don't want you here. If you're not serious, get out. This is only for people that are serious, that care about their health, because I shouldn't care more about your health than you. That's because I care about a lot of people's health. But if I care more about your health than yourself, then yeah, you got some growing up to do. And for some people, right, they got to have a heart attack or diabetes or some kind of life-changing event to then start caring about themselves. And what's that saying? People got to touch the stove to know it's hot. So I can only tell people, right, about so many preventative things before it impacts them, right? But again, guys, women, thank you. God bless y'all. Have an amazing day, and give me some ideas for future videos because I'm all my guides are done, and it's time to do other little things that are interesting that people might be interested in. Okay, take care now.